What's up, PML? Let me talk to you. This is your boy Vegas. I'm bringing in my man Londo Tron. We're going to talk a little bit of PML Madden 24 Season 1 trades. We're going to dive into a little bit of gameplay later in the day. Who's out there tanking already and who's trying to make a splash in Season 1 to get that belt before the heavy hitters come in Season 3 and Season 4 is what we're thinking. So without a further ado, this is Londo Tron. Are you there, Londo?
Good evening and hello, everybody. But my biggest hello to my good friend, constant, every single year trade partner, Vegas. Thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely, man. This year we were able to sneak one in there, a little McKinney for Valus action, just to kind of keep it flowing in our PML history. Without further ado, really, we want to hop in here. We want to kind of come together, get a little chatter regarding some of the big deals we had, some small sneaky moves, and we'll talk a little bit about it. So, really, Lundo, I sit here and I look around the big board, right? And we're at PML. I look at the big board and I say, man, where's all the big moves at, right? And really, it starts with one, and the one that really stood out to us, really to me, first and foremost, as I pull up my screen here, is the big one right in the middle, right? We have Kid
Right smack dab
Hooligan.
in the middle.
Kid Hooligan is rolling over in his PML grave right now as hometown Jake has sent the future and the one and only DK Metcalf along with a current second round pick over to Cup of fucking Joe himself, Average Joe. What's your initial impressions when you look at this deal, man?
Listen, first, when that came through to the trade committee and we saw it immediately, I knew uh, Average Joe was out there just laughing, probably sipping on a cold drink and just evil laughing his way like the Joker in Dark Knight. Um, But the worst one was, like you said, Hogan's out there somewhere. If he saw that trade, contacted with Jake, he probably sent him some extremely nasty DMs, giving away the Seattle Seahawks watching DK Metcalf go. But for me, with this trade, and I know you and you're going to play a little devil's advocate here on this. This was the biggest trade so far to kick off PML, hands down. And for me, someone, whether it was Sorcery, Cody, someone in, or even, our good, Titty Boy Curtis, someone in that division pissed off Jake, and he said, "You know what? I'm about to send DK Metcalf over to pair with Anthony Richardson and watch you all in the AFC crumble." It was a crazy trade, phenomenal. Absolutely love to see those kind of things. But I know I didn't really like the trade. I know you have a completely, a little bit of a devil's advocate on it in regards to your perspective, especially with DeForest Buckner being a part of it.
Well, let me tell you, right? So, like, initial reaction, first off, I think Jake probably got underpaid, right? So let me get and make myself very clear. Jake got underpaid in this deal, right? But what I will say is this: is it is hard to trade a DK Metcalf. It is really hard. You're talking about someone that is game breaking, and I think it's kind of funny you bring up and you say, hey, who pissed off who pissed off Jake in that division said we're going to pair AR5 with DK out here in Indianapolis. But you know what? You got to think for a second. Ask yourself a couple of questions. Why would Jake do this? Well, let's look at the trade. First off, what's easier to develop, a wide receiver or a defensive tackle? Right?
Wide receiver
A
by a
wide
mile.
a wide receiver by a mile. What's being hoarded this year more than ever before in PML? First round picks. Let me ask you this. Who got the only superstar rookie wide receiver in PML Madden 24 this year?
Big Jackson Smith and Jigba, the
Jackson
only one.
Smith and Jigba, right? Well, when you look at that and you say, so we get a superstar replacement. I still got K Dub 3 in the backfield. I've got two first round picks coming in. I still need to replace Gino, and I add a monster, a game changer for my front seven because I don't have one, and I play in what potentially could be the second best division in PML. Yes, folks, I said the second because it ain't close, right? Maybe Jake just says my team is better this way because I can throw it to anyone. And all y'all seem to forget, Dan Chisena has been a monster for two full PMLs. And if he can do it with that guy, man, he can do it with anyone. So that's kind of my take on it. Listen, I don't like the trade, but I can see why he did it from an aspect around that. Looking at the big board here, Londo, is there any other ones that really stand out to you that you want to talk a little bit about?
Well, there's another one, and it was the swap of two X Factor running backs, which I think we should just get out of the way because talking about yourself, Vegas, even though we love to talk about ourselves, is something that we probably shouldn't on a podcast. But the next biggest trade that I was very surprised by, I think talking offline, you definitely described and went through why you did it. But that was your big trade with Sorcery to move your younger X Factor running back that maybe is a little more agile, maybe catch the ball a little better for the monster, the man, the myth, the legend in a run heavy first Madden, Derrick Henry. So I think we really should just get that one out of the way and definitely talk about that.
Listen, I'm not going to go too much into it, but I think you spiced up the key part there, which was the younger X Factor running back. Yes, I did, but I did gain the superstar 92 overall Kevin Byard. Again, this is Madden. We are playing abilities on. Abilities do matter. And let me need not remind anybody that my safeties are awful in New York. I am starting the future in Dane Belton. He won the starting job right away, but I did not have a second safety. Xavier McKinney was on the block the game was even unwrapped. Jason Pinnock is just listen. I like him in real life. He's not going to be the Madden guy. I needed to make a move. Bobby Price was not available to me because Carter's being a little bit scarce over there in Arizona. I had to make a play, and this fell in front of me. I was able to get back Racy, who's a kind of a sneaky guy for me, 6'3". Kind of take that Higgins role potentially for me, and really it cost me two guys that were on three guys that were on expiring contracts. I get Derrick Henry, I get Freight Train right off the get. I don't have to re-roll for it, and personally, I feel good about the deal. So I do know this that Saquon has been a monster in head to head so far. He has been he's been game changing, and his juke move is insane. So get ready for it. You might be asking for DeForest Buckner back by the time you're done playing those Titans twice a year, Joe. But but yeah, I mean, I think another big trade that really popped out, right? Let's talk a little bit about. We're just talking about Sorcery and the Titans. He had a big one out there between the Rams and the Titans. This trade got kind of bounced back and forth a little bit.
Huge trade.
Right. So, from my understanding, the Titans sent DeAndre Hopkins, defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons, left guard rookie Peter Skoronski, which is a really strong 76, 77 overall star rookie. And then it's also sent Will Levis with Slinger 1. Don't sleep on it, folks. That is a Will Levis with Slinger 1 and 69 overall, which means he does qualify as long as Splash plays all of his games and plays all of his games in the PML breakout tourney. That guy can easily be a star, and he's getting a first round pick back, a future. Um, Listen, he gave up probably more than he needed to. I actually agreed with the first part of the trade. I think it kind of got rewound a little bit, but he did have to give up his young stud, Byron Young, 92 speed, 6'3", 6'4", monster out on the edge, and then of course the we'll say the beast incarnate is it's a little feels that way when he's out there on the football field, but Aaron Donald, man, that guy is a game wrecker right now in Madden 24. He has the best abilities possible. Don't ever re-roll him. Don't ever do anything. Let that man eat. What's some takeaways there? You have any other feedback regarding that trade? Do you feel like it was fair when it was all said and done, or
Yeah, no, I feel like it was fair when it was all said and done. I know they went back and forth a little bit, had to toss it around and kind of get it to an equal area. But the biggest thing, and I know we talked about this, and like I said, I can reference this because Sorcery was on the player profile with TRC. He is in win now mode, and Aaron Donald is a win now player. Period. Splash is a little bit in a rebuild with that Rams roster. He is getting possibly a quarterback of the future with Will Levis, with Slinger One, and then on top, and a great offensive lineman, a good at least now receiver, maybe to be able to dev some of his other receivers. And listen, Jeffrey Simmons, I really think a lot of people slept on him a little bit, in the trade committee and just around that, his value is he is still a little more, he could get up to a 95 if done right. Um, but that trade overall was just chaos. It was awesome. I think it worked really well for both sides. And, we'll see kind of the ripple effect of what it's going to create, come kickoff when PML gets rocking.
yeah, I mean, again, we're talking about kind of win now mode. Since we're talking about him, a couple other big deals, right? So he went out and he got Von Miller. In that deal, he traded away Caleb Farley and a C1, as well as Chigizium Akwankro, I believe is how you say his name. He turned around. What else did he do? He received Dante Jackson in kind of a small deal. Feel like he gave up a couple of backups and received a very cheap Dante Jackson from Skulls. I really feel Skulls lost that trade. Not a huge fan of that one across the board, but we'll see what happens. The deal with you, I think, was a pretty good deal for really both of you guys. He got rid of some dead guys, picked up a pick, and you were able to stock the cupboards, which we'll talk a little bit about here shortly about some win now guys. He went out and made a deal with the Seafield, got a couple of superstars, one for his defensive front, one for his offensive front. Picked up Chris Westry, 6'4", 90 speed, can be moved around a little bit, do a few different things. Left tackle. The pick that draft that's not on here is the Leonard Williams deal. So I mean, he's gone out and he's made a lot of different plays here. Really taking the LA Rams mantra of F them picks, and really is looking to win now. You look at that division. Joe is going to be a problem every season. You got Wisco with the Texans and Kim Jong Cody with the Jags. Listen, he could easily be 1-2 every year if that roster can hold up. And he has to stay engaged too. That's the other piece to it too. So we shall see. We had I think we had two other really big trades here. Why don't you talk to me a little bit about your thought process on giving away two C1s for the best cornerback in the game? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I think your evaluation on exactly what happened there was great. So kudos to you. Jalen Ramsey. Jeez. I I'm not gonna lie to you, playing some random games, pick the Dolphins, put them in the slot, got two pick sixes and all in Madden 24 against some random play now user. Immediately was just like, no, I'm gonna go get this guy. No, that did happen, but for me, when I look at the Bears roster, and I've kind of looked at the zone defense, and I know we'll talk a little bit about plays, the gameplay and everything later. The biggest thing I looked at is my roster. Got a good linebacking core. My front seven is very young and no ability and somewhat inexperienced, which is a tad bit tough. And then my secondary was probably the strong suit of my defense. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to pretty much throw away the whole first draft, if you can see from some of my other trades. And I'm going to lean into a really, really stout secondary, and hopefully I can still get pressure on some individuals because all of their wide receivers and tight ends will be completely locked down. Jalen Ramsey pretty much ever since the second Madden, even maybe the first Madden when he came in and got drafted by the Jaguars. RIP to Cody if he was still on that team. Um, he's been an absolute lockdown. He shuts down the entire half of one field. And for me, having a very young team and a young defense, that was something that was very appealing to me. Was I don't have to worry about literally a half of a field when he is over there. So that was my thought process there. Iron Cody and I were in the same division last year, and so we made some small trades and had a little bit of an open market there. He was looking to move away from Jalen. Ramsey continued to kind of go on with the speed, and that's where we were able to work that all out.
Absolutely, absolutely. So looking forward, it's really important to say, the Dolphins got speed to burn, and now they're sitting out there and they're picking up a couple of firsts. It's good to see what you're doing on that backside. I know you talked a little bit about your secondary, needing your secondary a little bit more time to breathe a little bit, and so we'll see what happens there. I think really the last trade I kind of want to talk about before we hop into the next step is of course TRC going out and making his big splash play like he typically does. He went out and traded away the Jets first round pick, traded away the Titans first round pick, along with Corey Davis, 24 years old, star, 83 overall, to receive the prized gem that is named Jamison Williams, out there from Detroit. 22 years old, 79 star, 98 speed. Uh, Listen, we know what that guy can do when he's got the wide receivers. We saw what he did with Henry Ruggs and the team that he had a couple of years ago. What are your thoughts on this deal? Who wins it? Why is it important?
Well, it's important because you got to look back on two Maddens ago, and you and I talked offline about this. Two Maddens ago, Hollywood Brown paired him with Justin Fields and a few guys on the Baltimore Ravens. All of a sudden, turned into multiple Super Bowls and chaos. I think TRC is definitely planning for a similar thing, and throwing to Jamison Williams is going to create that. He's 98 speed. Worry a little bit about his drops and his ability to separate from corners and just completely rely on speed. But when you get a guy who's second fastest player, tied for second with Waddle, I mean that's huge. And you're pairing that guy with, I believe he still has Stephon Diggs. Um, Correct? I think he still
Yeah,
has Stephon
still
Diggs. I
still
don't think
still
he
has
has.
Diggs. He hasn't shipped him
Still,
yet.
yep.
He's searching.
Still has Stephon Diggs, and then you have an absolute cannon, 99 throw power quarterback in Josh Allen. He gets a clean pocket. He loads up. Maybe has that X factor activated. I mean, that's a 70, 80-yard bomb straight on your head, and that's something that's very tough to defend.
Love it, love it. Absolutely, couldn't agree more, my man. It's going to be crazy to see what he can do. And there was talk about him moving Allen initially, and then he decided, nope, he's not doing it. He looked at that cap hit, I think, and looked at and looked at that team as a whole. He said, nope, we're good. We're going to keep that guy. But listen, one thing we have seen from him before is that he's a season 3 through 5 guy, and by the time you get around where all of his draft picks start hitting, he wins the draft. It feels like every season he's gonna be a problem. So I think this is a good trade for both teams here because it gets some picks out of Buffalo that he traded some guys for, but it is very worrisome when you compare Jamison Williams with the Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. So before we, I want to talk to a second before we kind of dive into some of the other smaller trades. There was a little bit of a controversy, pre game release and kind of what was going on. I think you might have a little insider knowledge, but once upon a time, I heard about a deal that was supposed to go down between Visions and the Broncos with Seafield's Eagles and Jalen Hurts on the move, but yet I never saw anything come through. You have any inside information on that for me?
This is going to be probably the biggest controversy and the reason why one of these Super Bowls is going to go to Visions, and he's going to upset Seafield in it. Even though it's going to be an NFC, AFC, Broncos, Eagles,
I love it.
and he is going to get the better of him because of this. So there was some talk about Justin Fields, of course, possibly moving off of the Chicago Bears. Unfortunately, it's not happening anymore, gentlemen. So you can quit asking. And there was some conversations with myself and Seafield about possibly moving Justin Fields over there. The reason being was because he had already shipped Jalen Hurts pre-release of the Madden to a good friend of mine and a great trade partner in Visions. Always loved those Broncos and wanted to, of course, move on possibly from an aging Russell Wilson. And so the trade, from what I understand it was a C1, a future one, and a gentleman that I have met in real life when I went to a Boise State game and finally completed one of those moments in my life of seeing the blue field because I always wanted to. From Boise State, JL Center, the 6'4" safety. And that was the trade for Jalen Hurts. Unfortunately, because of the Justin Fields talk and, possibly me then receiving those Denver picks, it fell through. And I was very interested and surprised by that. And so because of that, I know and feel it in my heart that Visions is going to be a more locked in Madden player this year, and he's coming for Jalen Hurts and Seafield to dethrone him.
Well, what I will say is yes, he's definitely going to be a lot more locked in because his schedule isn't going to suck, and he's going to have a little bit more time with his new job and his new gig and kind of what he's doing, being a retired medic he was doing before. But it kind of ties in, right? Because the rumor was that um, the Chargers were looking to shop Max Duggan, the TCU great, over to Philadelphia at one point for what I believe I believe the talk was like a C2. And in a little bit of a scrimmage game, me and old Vizzy were sitting there having a conversation. He was talking about Russell Wilson, and I said, "Hey, I said, listen, man, you want to know the guy you need to go get that I would go get myself, but I'm stuck with this Danny Dimes contract, and EA doesn't love Danny like they do everybody else, and I'm kind of stuck over here with this guy. Is Max Duggan? Go get this guy. Good throw power, good speed. We'll talk a little bit about later, but I think the quarterback's mobility is going to be really important this year. Um, it doesn't have a paranoid sense of pressure. You throw out an F2, you're able to move on from from Russell Wilson. You throw a baby star upgrade on this guy for doing the project that we had at one point. That's a win. I think this might be the sleeper move of the entire offseason is this Max Duggan for F2 coming to Denver. But for sure. So I think that's some great insight there. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I remember Vizzy had my number back, I want to say, in Madden 21. Man, that guy dominated my ass. I'm looking forward to seeing him back to the top because I would love to see him get a little bit of cause a little bit of trouble for Mr. Strawberry, who's been running that division for far too long. Um, but yeah, so really, I want to take a second. I want to talk a little bit about kind of just some of the trades in general, some kind of big trades that kind of went down for a lot of teams. A lot of teams were active. Our main man Tiger did reach out to me, sent over some information, and I want to kind of talk about his information that he has. We kind of talk a little bit together with what he had as well. We can kind of start off with first. I think the first team he talked about was the Titans. So why not start with the complete rebuild in Tennessee? He talks about the Titans acquired A.D., Von Miller, Trent Bound, Byron Young, Dante Jackson, Saquon, Darius Slayton, and more. From all these trades, Sorcery had $66 million in cap penalties to pay, but he still has $40 million in cap space left. It is offset by the fact that most of his players are on very cheap contracts due to trades. It appears that Sorcery is trying to make a move season one with limited number of picks he has all left, and all the big name players he traded for. His D line is going to be terrifying as AD has proved so far to be a force to be reckoned with in Madden 24. Tiger, I could not agree more. Do you have any other takeaways regarding these monster trades in Tennessee and what the hell he's doing over there for sorcery?
Man, sorcery in that D line. It's I honestly got to agree with exactly what Tiger said in regards to it is a little bit of a win now. It is a little bit of a move, but AD and just what he brings to your team, pairing him with the Super Bowl victorious teammates, who was Von Miller and Aaron Donald. It's clearly Sean McVay knew that it was something, and so does so does
So the
sorcery, and I
sorcery.
think that's the way. Yeah.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
if his custom coach is Sean McVay 2.0, and if it's not, it probably should be.
Love it. Love to see it. Love to see it. Well, listen, it's a complete rebuild. That guy, man, I think he has right now 27 players on his team. 27 players. Hey, better hope free agency isn't locked going into week one because otherwise he's going to have a problem filling that roster. Um, we talked. Let's talk about really one of the teams that he actually made a big trade with, right? So we talked a little bit about Von Miller, and we kind of touched on the Jameson Williams deal. Tiger had this to say about TRC. TRC is stacking up on draft picks again. We know this man builds his team through the drafts, through his tough trade tactics. Oh, and he got 98 speed wide receiver Jameson Williams. GG's to us all, as we have seen this play out before with Hollywood Brown and the speedy running back he drafted 2 years ago, which his name was Andrew Griffin from the University of Tennessee, that he took at pick 17, one spot ahead of the New York Football Giants. I shall never forget my friend TRC. Um, and you touched base on that a little bit earlier about Hollywood Brown and what he talked about, what he meant to that team. TRC also went and got Caleb Farley, tight end Aquankwo, which also are two sneaky good pickups. Listen, we talked on them a little bit earlier. I wanted to be able to share in any big takeaways here? Anything that surprised you that TRC did here? Are you looking at his team saying, "Oh my God, he still has so much more he can trade," or what do you think?
I mean, the Bills were a loaded roster, top three roster probably in the game off the rip, and so he had a lot of trade pieces. Like an Eagles team. Honestly, I know Eric won't trade a single chief to save his life, but similarly, just deep roster, so on and so forth. That is something that I think he again leaned into, and I honestly think it was a big reason why a solid user, took the Bills, was because there were so many trade pieces on that team, and he still has more. I know there are rumors that he's still trying to move White, his CB1 White. I think he just moved Gregory, his young left end, for
Yep,
a
yep.
first
For a
round
first
pick and
round
a
pick,
third
he's
round pick.
still
Yeah,
shopping
and so
digs too, I believe, right? So
yeah, still shopping Diggs and a few others. And like I said, the Dalton Kincaid trade with the Commanders was probably the most surprising one for me. But he did it.
yeah. Well, it's funny. We were just talking about Seafield and just talking about the Commanders, right? So the Eagles and Commanders there kind of looped in together, which both made trades with TRC here. We can talk a little bit about Seafield. Listen, full disclosure, right? I don't think there's anybody in the league that said, "Hey, it's cool. Seafield took the Eagles," right? Like, hey, we get it, dude. You're good. But listen, all joking aside, it's going to be a problem, right? You're talking about the goat of PML coming in, taking over a roster that can win now, but also has tons and tons of youth and speed and size. Um, it's going to be a problem. And he came out right away. You talked a little bit about Jalen Hurts not getting traded. Um, but guess what, folks? He's still traded everybody else, and he's getting the pieces he likes for his team. Tiger talked a little bit about it. He's taken the Eagles roster, leveraged the majority of his 26-year and better great players, and sent them away. Eagles have acquired cornerback Booth, safety Kyle Hamilton. Nice job there, Lynch. a fuck ton of picks in the process. Names like Kelsey, Cox, Lane Johnson, and more are no longer with the team. But not to worry though, as this team has a lot of youth and speed around the roster and won't have lost a step. Listen, I can't agree with you more there, Tiger, when you talk about that. Um, the question is, I mean, how deep do you need to be? Do you see any holes in that roster today, even after these trades?
I'm going to be honest, I don't. Maybe, maybe since he moved, Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson, his offensive line is looking a tad bit on the weaker side
Okay,
comparative to
okay.
what it probably was, comparative to what it probably was if you hadn't made those trades. Um, Outside of that, though, still a very, very solid D line. I mean, an excellent, you got Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith Jr., so on and so forth. Still a very, very solid defensive line. Linebackers, good, solid. I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe some corners, but I know he picked up, Sidney Brown, and uh, also a few other
Yeah,
pieces of that
Keely Ringo,
secondary.
right?
So,
Probably the steal of the Madden draft, fourth round
yeah,
pick, right? Like that's Keely Ringo. I think 6'2", 92, 93 speed.
hidden
Um,
dev.
got hidden dev, right? It's just like the Eagles just don't miss. And Seafield said, sure, I'll make this easy. And listen, if we don't get him season one, folks, we need to be in ready to go because season 2, 3, and 4, we're in for a world of hurt when he starts cashing in these draft picks. We were talking again about the NFC East, with kind of the Bills relation that he had with the Dalton Kincaid trade. I'll definitely tell you this: the Commanders were active, and they were active early in this trade set. I want to say the Commanders had one, two, three, four, five, six, seven trades for our man Tiger. I know you touched base on the Kincaid trade a little bit. Was he went out and got Keenan Allen, went out and got Mike Evans to pair with McLaurin. You're talking about three X Factor wide receivers, Dalton Kincaid, Brian Robinson on the backside, playing running back because that's the rumor that Gibson is not going to get the go this year. I mean, hell, he went and got Devin White for a C1. Um, of all those trades, which trade did he win the most, you think? And that's going to be the most valuable for him to make a season one run in the NFC East?
Yeah, I think we talked about it. It was the sneaky one with Devin White. You're comparing it. Well, he hasn't moved. Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Jonathan Allen. Great front four there. You're now pairing Jermaine Davis with, I believe it's Jermaine Davis. Quote me if I'm wrong there.
Jamin
Correct
Davis.
me. Jamin Davis,
Yep.
sorry. Jamin Davis with arguably one of the best user linebackers that, has been in the league since he came out of LSU. So that is just, a scary, scary front seven, especially if you're running a heavy 4-3. Using literally everybody. That's amazing. And so for me, that was my biggest thing is I looked at that being a very sneaky trade, something that was great. I know there were rumors that the Commanders were possibly going to be in the running to take DJ Moore away from the Chicago Bears. Tiger, if you're listening to this or out there, DJ Moore will never be a Commander, no matter what you want to do until he retires or throw him in free agency because he's only a 72 overall. But getting a guy like Keenan Allen and Mike Evans, clearly he wants to develop Sam, Howell. He wants to be able to throw the ball around. And that's something that he's going to definitely go. The one downfall is, and something that when I was looking at those trades that I did not see that might hurt him, so hopefully he uses some of those, he develops some of those guys, is the Commanders have one of the worst offensive lines in Madden. And I think that's going to be something really tough to handle when you have a young QB. And so hopefully those wide receivers can get open quickly because they're going to have to if he plays up against anybody that has a decent defensive line.
Well, it's funny you say that, right? So it's funny you speak exactly to the thought process of what's going on in New York. And if you look at what Tiger had to say about his divisional opponent in New York, which is myself, Vegas, He said exactly this. He said, the Giants have given up some youthful stars, including Saquads and some draft capital, his own and those acquired from other trades, to acquire young linebacker Bonito, Isaiah Land, Deuce Vaughn, Kevin Byard, Ryan Jensen, Ojabo, Amari Cooper, superstar wide receiver route tech, Jedrick Willis to help protect the right side, opposite of Andrew Thomas. Oh, and Derek motherfucking Henry. Vegas is going the power back route again with the King himself. After much success with Nick Chubb, why not? This roster is looking even scarier than it did prior to all these trades. Now, this part he threw in here, and he's a joke for saying it. He said, Vegas is the favorite to win the division in my mind now due to a coin flip. This guy just wants to lurk, and he is laying low. This is still the Commanders' division to win, even season one with Seafield in the hunt. But I do appreciate the kind words and the little synopsis. You have anything else you want to share? Was there any trades that stood out to you other than the Saquon trade that happened in New York that you say, hey, that's a little interesting, or you feel like you made a good play there for what you're trying to do?
Yeah, just looking over it. I mean, the main one, another main one that somewhat stood out to me that I did enjoy, and even though again I'm kind of tooting your horn here, um, done in a C1 and a future two for Amari Cooper, and a solid and young, Jadarick Williams, the left tackle. I think that's a really, really good trade, and I liked that. The one that I didn't really understand, but I'm very interested because it is with Seafield, was the trade for that young 21-year-old running back from Tampa Bay, Tucker, who's a 69 overall for a C5. That seems like it could be something that materializes and the league maybe looks back on that trade and goes, how the heck did he get that guy for a C5? You know, when he dabs him into a superstar X Factor since he's only 21 years old. And then just some of the like I said, the smaller trades that I thought were one other one I think that was a little bit underrated, that I somewhat enjoyed, but you never know, is watching Quiddy Pay go and pair with Parsons at the Cowboys. Two young, good, end players, and the Colts gave up Quiddy Pay, who's 25 years old and a 77 overall star, for a C2. I get the value there, but you never know. The Cowboys really might be able to do something there, with now pairing both of those players together.
Like it, like it. I mean, a couple of them that kind of stood out, right? Let's talk about the Panthers real quick. Panthers went out. I will tell you this: after working with Skulls a little bit on his roster, that roster is god awful when it comes to cap. When I tell you they have paid everybody and they all suck, I mean it. Shy Tuttle making a ton of money, Andy Dalton making 8 million, can't cut him. Frickin' Moton with an awful contract. Who else, man? It was just one thing after another. Shaq Thompson was another one. Just one player after another, and can't move anybody. They went out and spent 60 million on freaking Adam Thielen. So the Panthers were a little bit behind, and they wanted to go get some players while they could. I think he did the best what he wanted to. He went and got a Dory. He got Julian Blackman, which I think is a really good deal. He can pair him up with Melifonwu that he traded for, along with Jeremy Chin. He has three really, really good edge guys, right? I mean, really, Brandon Smith can play the middle. He's got D Johnson out there, 89 speed, 6'4". Brandon Smith again, 6'4", 89 speed. And then you throw out Brian Burns, man. That guy is still there. He's still a monster. But so you kind of see what he tried to do there. Its roster's just really rough through this first year till he can kind of make some cuts. Other big things, right? You talked about, we haven't talked much about the Ravens yet. So one trade that really stands out to me that makes me go like, huh? Is C.J. Gardner Johnson for a first round pick. What are your feelings on that, Sir Londo?
Listen, I love Lynch. He's an up and down guy in the league in regards to likability, but that was 110% it was a consensus among the entire league. I DM'd a few individuals and other GMs and owners of other teams, and the number one head scratcher of the day, CJ Gardner Johnson for a first. Makes no sense. Don't understand it. Why would you do that? And especially after you just shipped away Kyle Hamilton, makes no sense to me. I could understand if you gave away a C1 to pair him with Kyle Hamilton, but you just shipped away Kyle Hamilton, replaced him with CJ Gardner Johnson, and lost a first round pick. Head scratcher of the day.
Well, so let me ask you though, right? So you say, hey, so we ship away the C1, we get C.J. Gardner Johnson, we ship away Hamilton and Mitchell and a C3, but we get ourselves back, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat. You still have Owa out there. You still have Roquan. You still have Queen. Is his thought process that, hey, I don't have to worry about anything on the backside because my front seven's going to get there? Is that what he's thinking?
I think that was what he was thinking. If there was a few other, I know he did move Ojolari. No, was it Ojolari?
No,
Is
he
that his
moved
name?
Ojabo. Yeah, Ojabo came to New
Ojabo,
York.
yeah.
Yep, yep.
Yep, Ojabo. So he did move Ojabo. I thought that was a little bit of a hit there. He does still have Marlon Humphrey. He did lose, and this was kind of a sneaky thing, losing Marcus Peters. I know he was an aging corner. Still a really, really solid over 80 lockdown player in the NFL. I think that was a little bit of a sneaky loss there
Yep.
in free agency. I understand the Roquan Smith being there, still having Patrick Queen, so on and so forth. He's going to have to get after the quarterback quick because, yes, Marlon Humphrey's going to lock down one half of the field, but not having Kyle Hamilton and replacing him with C.J. Gardner Johnson, who's 5'10" or 11, head scratcher. Head scratcher of the
Yeah,
day.
I think we're all kind of in agreement there. Like we looked at it, and it's just I can see what he's trying to do. I just don't like it. Maybe his thought is I can play linebackers at sub linebacker. I don't need to bring Hamilton down to the box. Listen, he's 6'4". He covers a ton of ground. Talk to Vizzy about JL Skinner. I think he could be more glad that guy did not get traded after playing with him a little bit with the way the game plays. I think he's ecstatic there. So, uh, listen, he got two impact players right away, but I think he lost a future star at 22 years old that could be there for the rest of the way. What else do we have? We got Mac Jones headed to Minnesota, so it looks like the Kirk Cousins time is over there. We had Kalen Barnes went for a C2 and a C5. I thought that was a pretty good deal there for the Vikings. He traded away, some speed, but got some immediate value back. There's a lot of different plays here. They're all listed on the screen, guys. If you get a chance, you guys can take a look at it. But as a whole, that's a lot of the trades that were out there. I do want to kind of roll up the last of the trade talk before we talk a little bit of gameplay, Londo, and I want to talk about the Colts, right? So we talked on them a little bit earlier. I want to kind of talk about it again. I want to make sure that we're just kind of, emphasizing how important this move is by going and getting DK Metcalf, and in the process, getting a strong center, um, getting a first round pick back, doing a lot of different things there with Elam and Torrance. Like he's really put a little bit of time and thought, not going out there and just trading everybody and anybody like you saw in Tennessee or New York, but really focused trades. What do you think the most important thing is for the Indianapolis Colts to win, and his thought process in this trade scenario?
Well, the thought process is, listen, in IRL, Josh Allen struggled. They brought in IRL, Josh Allen struggled. They brought in Stephon Diggs, stardom. Jalen Hurts, a lot of question marks. Brought in A.J. Brown, went to a Super Bowl. Then the last one, of course, we're hoping in Chicago, same thing is going to happen with Justin Fields and DJ Moore. Bring in a true number one, stardom, maybe even a Super Bowl. Uh, so I get the understanding of Anthony Richardson, pairing him with DK Metcalf, but you have to understand he's got Julius Brents, who is a hidden 6'3", 6'4", corner. You bring in Elam, who's also I believe he's 6'1", 6'2", young corner from the Bills. I see what he's trying to do there. He's trying to go young. He's trying to go a little bit lengthier and bigger. You got Michael Pittman, and now DK Metcalf, too tall, jumpy, have great jump ability in regards to their in regards to their wide receiver play, and then you got AR5, who is a ginormous athletic specimen. So a lot of length there for the Colts.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, right? So I do think looking at this first and foremost, it's going to cause a lot of problems of what they've got going on there. I think it's exciting to see DK out of Seattle. I'm a little nervous, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I am not upset that that man is playing in the AFC and not the NFC. Well, before we call it quits here today, I just want to take a quick minute and just kind of get your thoughts after 1 week of Madden being live. What are some takeaways on the first week of Madden? Any gameplay issues? Anything standing out to you? What do you like? What do you dislike? As we got about a couple of minutes here before we call it quits.
Yeah, my number one likes dislikes with gameplay so far. Just kind of jumping into Madden. First and foremost, I'm loving the zone man, secondary defense. Um, I was playing a head-to-head game, just kind of testing it out, and it was absolutely remarkably awesome watching a lobbed ball get thrown up to, the right side of the field, and watching the corner come off their defender, run about 5 or 6 yards, and make an interception. That is so realistic, and that is something that Madden's really, really been missing, in the past. Because usually 9 times out of 10, that would lead to a completion, and then I'd chuck my controller through a wall. So that was something that was really good. My downfalls right now, I'm not in love with tackling. I know you and I have talked about it offline. I think it's going to be a huge thing in PML where you just get the ball out quick, RPOs. Um, of course, running is going to be very heavy. Get it to your playmakers and let them work, because right now tackling is the animation of it, all that kind of stuff is not
Yep.
looking good. Hopefully they fix that a little bit. And hopefully that kind of comes a little bit further, because as of right now, I used to love the kind of low tackles because no one was hurdling anybody
Yep.
last Madden. It would usually lead to a pretty easy tackle. Those are literally non-existent now.
Good luck if you go low right
Yeah,
now. Good luck.
yeah, it is literally non-existent, and it's tough. And so that's tough. It's something I had to adjust with. So tackling and animations are
Yep.
rough right now, but overall, really loving the gameplay. Loving what they did so far. Hopefully it'll continue to kind of go more passing, because it is pretty run heavy. And listen, if you have an athletic quarterback like I do, like Justin Fields, man, you're going to cause some havoc.
Yeah, I think you talked. Listen, the animations. I couldn't agree more. That's my number one thing I'm really concerned with right now is right now it feels like the game it flows so great until there's an animation and then there's a secondary player or someone else interacting with them during that animation and it's like they don't exist and you're seeing guys bounce off or not trigger and it's a little bit frustrating. It's not quite like, hey, the guy fell on the ground in a playoff game and then got up and ran for a touchdown, in the overtime. Shout out to my boy Legacy. But it's a little bit rough right now. Tyreek Hill, listen, I played a couple games against the guy. It's like he can't be tackled. Like if you hit stick him, doesn't matter. If you low cut him, doesn't matter. Like he just bounces off of people because of his juke. Like even in the juke animation, he just shrugs off people. So it'll be very interesting to see there. But I will tell you this, the other side of that too, with a little bit of concerns is right now match is a little broken. Folks, if you're not playing match defense, if you don't know what match defense is, look into it. I highly suggest it, but it's definitely something that right now, in certain spots, it is not matching up correctly, and there are guys running free. So be on the lookout for that. So just watch what coverage you're calling. Cover four press right now is quarters press is broken. Don't even run it, guys. Stay away from it. You'll get yourself into trouble. But things I love. Listen, I love the feel. I think you talked about the zones. I love it. Me being more of a zone guy than a man guy. I really do enjoy it. Right now, I really feel like you just need to be aware of your adjustments, and you'll be okay on defense. The game feels good. Gonna probably need to use contain a good bit, especially early on in the season. Um, but other than that, playbooks, right? Playbooks is probably my biggest takeaway. So many new plays, and it's exciting to see, and some new fun stuff in there. But really, that's all I've got. Londo, you got anything you want to take away with before I call it a show here?
Absolutely not. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for talking offline. It was great that we were able to just go through all the trades and stuff because trades are always really big in this league and will continue to be. I look forward to maybe now that the game's out before the season starts, as we're going through, just the pool play and all that kind of stuff. I look forward to maybe seeing a couple more, trades once the rosters before we kick off week 1. But Vegas, thank you so much for hosting. Thank you so much for having me on here. Huge shout out to you.
Absolutely, man. It's been absolutely my pleasure. And PML, best of luck to you this year. EA, don't fuck it up. Let's go have a good one, folks. Thanks again, everybody. And that's a wrap, Jack. Have a good day.